Maeve Callahan was 17 when the cold began to kill men in their own homes. Cabins that had always held through winter failed, stoves burned, and still the heat slipped away. By morning, people were freezing within reach of their own doors. But deep beneath the mountain, there were rooms that never froze. They had told her the mine was worthless, flooded, dead, a grave. What they didn't understand was that the water wasn't the end of the mine. It was the beginning of something else. 6 months earlier, the mountain had taken everything from her. The supports in the lower shaft gave way without warning. A sound like thunder, followed by silence. They found her father first, then her mother, buried together under stone that no one could move. The company closed the claim within a week. Too dangerous, too unstable, too full of water. The flood had come from somewhere deep, an underground vein broken open by the collapse. Water pouring into the tunnels, faster than any pump could pull it out. Within a month, the mine was filled. 200 feet of black water, swallowing 10 years of work. "The claim is yours," the lawyer told her. He said it the way a man hands over something broken, something already gone. "You'll still owe taxes," he added, "for whatever that's worth." Barrett Cole stood beside him, foreman, practical, certain. He had worked with her father. He had seen the tunnels, the collapse. He didn't look at her when he spoke. "Sell it. We'll take the salvage. Give you something for it. Better than nothing." Maeve looked past him, toward the hillside where the shaft disappeared into shadow. Her father had carved that opening by hand. Her mother had walked that path every day. Now it was filled with water and silence. "How much?" she asked. $50. He said it like it was generous, like it was more than she should expect. Maeve didn't answer right away. She was looking at his hands. Calloused, blackened. Hands that had built things and walked away from them. Then she shook her head. "No." He exhaled through his nose, not surprised. "Just done." "Then it's yours," he said. She moved into the cabin above the mine the next day. There was nowhere else to go. No family nearby. No money to leave. Only the land, the cabin, and the flooded shaft beneath it. For the first week, she did almost nothing. She would walk to the edge of the opening and stand there, looking down into the water. It sat just below the surface, dark, still, waiting. No sound of movement, no ripple, just depth. Everything her father had built, gone beneath it, every tunnel, every chamber, every plan. But after a few days, she began to notice something. The water wasn't rising. She marked the edge with a small stone, came back the next morning. It hadn't changed. Another day, another mark. Still the same, exactly the same. She crouched near the edge, watching it more carefully now. Water that had once rushed in, now sat, perfectly still. That wasn't how flooding worked. If it was still filling, it would rise. If it was draining, it would fall. But this was something else, held in place. She looked out across the slope below the cabin. The land dipped away from the shaft, and somewhere beneath that ground, her father had started something he never finished. A tunnel, a way for water to leave. She didn't know how far he had gotten, didn't know if it was close. But the water had stopped, at a level, not random, set. Maeve stood slowly, eyes still on the surface.
For the first time since the collapse, she felt something shift. Not hope, not yet. Possibility. If the water wasn't rising, then something was holding it back. And if something was holding it, something could release it. She turned away from the shaft, looked toward the hillside below, where rock met earth and the slope disappeared into brush. Then she walked down past the cabin, through the frozen grass, searching. She didn't know exactly what she would find, only that her father had started something, and never finished it. And somewhere beneath that ground, the mine was still waiting.
Maeve found the opening on the third day. Not where she expected, not marked, almost hidden. It sat low along the hillside, half swallowed by brush and fallen stone. A narrow cut in the earth, barely wide enough for a man to crawl through. She knelt beside it, cleared away loose debris with her hands. Cold dirt, broken rock, neglect. Then she leaned closer, and felt it. A faint current of air. Not wind. Movement. She pressed her hand near the opening, held it there. Cool air drifting outward, steady, alive. Her father had been here. He had started something. Maeve sat back on her heels, eyes fixed on the darkness inside. If this was the drainage tunnel, then somewhere beyond it, it reached toward the flooded shaft. Or almost did. That was when Elias Novak found her. He didn't announce himself, didn't call out, just appeared beside her, quiet as the mountain. Old, weathered. You're digging in the wrong place. Maeve turned sharply, hand instinctively reaching for the pick she had set beside her. He raised his hand slightly. Not in fear. In habit. I'm not digging yet, she said. Not yet, he replied. But you will. He stepped past her, kneeling at the opening, ran his fingers along the edge of the cut, pressed lightly against the rock. Listening. Feeling. Your father started this, he said. Maeve nodded. He didn't finish it. Elias gave a small, almost absent nod. No. But he got close. Maeve frowned slightly. How close? He leaned forward, peered into the darkness. Calculating. 50 feet, he said. Maybe 60. Maeve stared at him. That's all. That's everything. She looked back at the opening, then at the slope above. You're saying if I dig that far, the water leaves. He said it simply. Like gravity. No pumps. No buckets. Just direction. Maeve's eyes shifted again to the dark tunnel. 50 feet. Through solid rock. Alone. Elias stood slowly, dusting his hands against his coat. Water doesn't like to stay trapped, he said. It follows the easiest path down. And this, he nodded toward the tunnel, was meant to be that path. Maeve swallowed once. And if I'm wrong? Elias met her eyes. Then you dig a tunnel that leads nowhere. And if I'm right? He gave a faint, crooked smile. You open the mountain. They sat there for a while after that, neither speaking. The air moving faintly from the tunnel between them. You worked with my father, she said. Elias nodded. He listened. Maeve looked back at the opening. He never talked about this. He wouldn't, Elias said. Not until it worked. Maeve exhaled slowly, then reached for the pickaxe. I'll finish it. Elias studied her for a moment, measuring. Then he nodded once. Then you'll need to learn how not to die doing it. He came back the next day, and the day after that. Not to do the work, to teach it. He showed her how to read the rock, where it held, where it fractured, how to listen for hollow spaces ahead, before you broke into them. He showed her how to brace the tunnel as she went. Timber set tight, angles that carried weight instead of fighting it, small decisions that kept a ceiling from falling. Mining is patience, he told her.
The mountain does not hurry. The water does not hurry. Only fools hurry underground. Maeve worked, hour after hour. The pick biting into stone, the sound sharp in the narrow tunnel. She hauled debris out in buckets, one at a time, again and again, inches, that was how she measured it. Not feet, not yards, inches. 3 in a day. Sometimes 4. Sometimes less. Her hands blistered, then hardened. Her shoulders burned, then adapted. The tunnel lengthened, slowly, deliberately. The people in Silver Hollow noticed. They saw her each morning, disappearing into the hillside, and each evening, coming back covered in dust and exhaustion. Barrett Cole came in November. Not alone. A few men with him, watching, amused. He stood at the entrance to the drainage tunnel, looked inside, and shook his head. "She's digging toward water," he said. "Not away from it." The men behind him laughed. The sound echoed down the narrow cut. Maeve didn't stop. "She'll break through into that shaft," Barrett went on. "And when she does, that water will take her." Maeve set the pick down slowly, turned. Her face streaked with dust. Her hands rough, her eyes steady. "The mine isn't dead," she said.
Barrett let out a short breath of disbelief. "It's full of water." Maeve shook her head. "No. It's waiting." Something in her voice shifted the air. Not loud, not angry, certain. Barrett looked at her for a moment longer, then turned away. The men followed him. Their laughter quieter now. Not gone. Maeve picked up the tool again, turned back into the tunnel, and kept digging. Deeper, closer, toward something she couldn't yet see, but could almost hear. By the end of November, the tunnel no longer felt like the hillside. It felt like something else, deeper, heavier. The air changed first, less movement, more stillness, the kind of stillness that held sound, instead of carrying it away. Maeve noticed it the moment she crossed a certain point. She couldn't mark it exactly, but she felt it, the mountain closing in. Each strike of the pick sounded different now, duller, fuller, like it was hitting something thicker than stone. She paused once, resting the tool against her shoulder, listening. There it was, faint, a sound beneath the rock. Not wind, not air, something slower, heavier. Water. She didn't move for a long moment. Just stood there, eyes fixed on the dark wall ahead, feeling the weight of what was behind it, 200 feet of it, waiting. She stepped back slowly, turned, walked out of the tunnel. The cold air outside hit her face, sharp, real. Elias was there that morning, sitting on a rock near the entrance, as if he had known. "You heard it," he said. Maeve nodded. "Water." Elias didn't smile. He rarely did. "How close?" he asked. "Not far, maybe a few feet." He stood slowly, walked past her, into the tunnel. Maeve followed. They stopped at the face. Elias placed his hand against the rock, closed his eyes, listening the way he had taught her. Then he nodded once. "You're there." Maeve swallowed. "So I break through." Elias opened his eyes. "No." The words sat heavy in the tunnel. "You break through that wall," he said, "and the mountain will break you back." Maeve looked at the rock again. The sound of water behind it, stronger now that she knew what it was. "Then what?" Elias stepped closer to the wall. Raised a finger. "Small," he said. "Always small first." He tapped the stone lightly. "You give the water a path, not a door." Maeve nodded slowly, understanding. If she opened it too wide, it would take her. She stepped forward again, set the pick aside, reached for the hand drill, positioned it against the rock. Her hands were steady, but her breathing wasn't. She struck the drill. Once. Twisted. Struck again. The sound was sharper now. each strike cutting deeper, each turn bringing her closer to the water. The air felt tighter. Pressured, she kept going, strike, turn, until the drill slipped forward suddenly. Not far, just enough. Through, she froze. Didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, a single drop. It formed at the edge of the hole, hung there, and fell, another. Then another, slow, steady. Alive. Maeve stepped back, watching it. The trickle grew, not violent, not rushing, just flowing down the tunnel. Following the slope, leaving. Elias nodded once. That's it. Maeve didn't speak. She couldn't, all she could do was watch. The sound changed, not a distant echo anymore. A presence. Water moving where it hadn't moved in months, the mind beginning to empty itself. She sank down against the wall, not from exhaustion. From weight. Everything her father had started was finally moving again. The flow continued, minute by minute. Hour by hour, never stopping. Maeve checked it through the night, lantern light flickering against wet stone, the stream growing stronger. Confident, by morning, the level in the shaft had dropped, not much. But enough. She marked it, the same way she had before. Stone against edge. Then she came back again the next day, and the next. Each time, the mark sat higher above the water. Foot by foot, the mine returned. Tunnels emerged first. Dark openings, reappearing from beneath the surface. Then tools, left where they had been dropped, waiting. Then deeper chambers, spaces the water had hidden, spaces her father had carved, but she had never seen. Maeve moved carefully now, never rushing. Never forgetting what still remained below. But with each passing day, the mountain gave more back. And the water gave way. Until finally, 3 weeks after the first drop, the shaft stood empty, and the mine was hers again. But what she found inside was not what anyone had expected. Because the deeper she walked, the less the cold followed her, until finally, it stopped. The first time Maeve noticed the warmth, she thought it was her imagination. The air felt different, not cold, not even neutral, held. She stood still in the tunnel, lantern light flickering against the rock, listening, feeling. The deeper she went, the less the cold followed. At first, it was only a slight change, the edge taken off the air, the bite gone. Then something more. Her breath stopped clouding as thick. Her hands stopped aching inside her gloves. The mountain was holding something. She stepped into one of the deeper chambers, a space her father had carved, wide enough to stand fully upright. The walls smooth, solid. Maeve raised her hand slowly and pressed it against the stone. She held it there, waiting for the cold. It didn't come. The rock was warm. Not fire warm. Not heated. Alive warm. She pulled her hand back, then pressed it again. Harder this time. The warmth stayed, steady, unmoving. Above her, the wind was already beginning to rise. She could hear it faintly, through the shaft. The first warning of what was coming. Maeve turned slowly, looking deeper into the mine. One chamber, then another. Each one the same. The further she went, the warmer it became. Not much, but enough. Enough to matter. Elias came down that afternoon. Careful on the ladder she had built. Slower than before. Maeve didn't speak when he reached her. She just placed his hand against the wall. and waited. He closed his eyes, felt it, then nodded. Once. Certain. "The mountain remembers," he said quietly. Maeve looked at him. "What does that mean?" Elias opened his eyes, studying the stone. "Heat doesn't leave rock the way it leaves air. It stays. Summer stays. Years stay. Winter never reaches." Maeve looked around the chamber again. The steady air, the unmoving warmth, a place untouched by what was happening above. Outside, the storm began that night. It came fast, faster than anyone expected. The wind rose from a whisper to a force that bent trees, then broke them, then buried them. Snow drove sideways across the valley, blinding, endless. By midnight, people were already losing the fight. Cabins failed first. The wind found every gap, every weakness. Elves about being safe. Stoves burned harder, wood vanished faster, and still, the cold came in. Barrack Cole's house lost its roof before dawn, torn away like it had never been there. He ran, barely ahead of the wind. Others tried to hold on. Blankets, fire, walls, none of it enough. By the second day, the town was breaking. Men who had worked these mountains for years were freezing inside their own walls. And then someone remembered. The girl, the flooded mine, the place everyone had called cursed, worthless. They came in ones at first, then in twos, then in groups. Figures moving through the white, stumbling toward the hill above Silver Hollow. Toward the Gallagher, no, toward Maeve's mine. She was waiting at the entrance, lantern in hand, light steady in the still air of the tunnel. The first man reached her near dusk, his face gray, his breath shallow. Close. He looked at her, unable to speak. Maeve stepped aside. "Come in." He did, and the moment he crossed the threshold, his shoulders dropped. The cold released him. More came. A woman carrying a child. Two miners holding each other upright. A boy no older than 10. Half frozen. Maeve didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate. She just moved them inside. Deeper. Into the chambers where the warmth held. Where the mountain remembered. By nightfall, there were more than a dozen. By morning, twice that. And still they came. The wind howled outside. Relentless. But inside the mine, there was no wind. No movement. No fight. Only warmth. Maeve stood near the entrance, watching them gather. The same people who had laughed. The same voices that had called her foolish. Now silent. Alive. And the mountain held them all. They stayed for 9 days. 9 days beneath the mountain, while the world above them disappeared. The wind never truly stopped. It rose, fell, then rose again. Endless. Snow buried the town. Cabins vanished beneath drifts. Paths disappeared. Landmarks erased. But inside the mine, nothing changed. The air stayed steady. The warmth held, unmoved. People who had spent their lives fighting the cold now sat in stillness. Hands no longer shaking. Breath no longer breaking. The children were the first to understand it. They moved through the tunnels. Slow at first, then faster, then laughing. Their voices echoed against stone that had only known silence. For the first time in days, something sounded like life. The adults followed more slowly. sitting along the walls, pressing their hands against the rock, feeling what they couldn't explain. Barrett Cole arrived on the third day. He came alone, staggering, half blind from the snow. He stopped at the entrance, saw the lantern, saw Maeve standing there. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't speak. Everything he had said, everything he had believed, stood between them. Then his legs gave slightly beneath him. And that was enough. Enough truth. Please, he said. Just that. Nothing more. Maeve looked at him. She remembered the offer. The $50. The laughter. She remembered standing alone above a flooded shaft, being told it was nothing. Worthless. She held his gaze a moment longer, then stepped aside. Come in. He did. And the mountain took him the same way it had taken the others. Not by force. By holding him. Days passed like that. Measured not by sunlight, but by breathing, eating, sleeping, waiting, together. Elias came on the fourth day. Slow, careful, older than the storm, or so it seemed. He walked through the chambers, watching the people gathered there. Families, minors, children, all alive. He stopped beside Maeve, looked at the walls, felt the warmth. You finished it, he said quietly. Maeve shook her head once. I just followed it. Elias gave a small nod. That's all anyone ever does, he said. When the storm finally broke, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like absence. The wind faded, the snow settled, the world above went still. One by one, they climbed back to the surface, into a place that no longer looked the same. Cabins collapsed, roofs gone, tracks erased. And silence. The kind that follows loss. 31 people didn't make it through that storm. But everyone who reached the mine lived. They gathered a few days later, not for ceremony, not for speeches, just to stand together. Barrett Cole stepped forward, his hands still marked by frost, his voice rough. I said this place was worthless. No one interrupted. No one needed to. I said she was digging her own grave. He looked at Maeve, didn't look away. I was wrong. The words settled over the group, not loud, but final. Maeve stood where she was. Hands at her sides, the mountain behind her. My father built this, she said. My mother believed in it. I finished it because I had nothing else. She looked at the people around her. Faces that had changed, not from fear, from understanding. It's not a grave, she said. It's a place. And anyone who needs it can come. No one laughed. Not anymore. Spring came slowly that year. Snow melted in layers, revealing what had been lost. But the mine remained, steady, unchanged, holding its warmth. Maeve kept working it. Not just for silver, for space. More chambers, more support, more room. Enough for whoever might come next. Because winter always came back. Years passed. The town changed. People told the story differently each time. About the girl who inherited a flooded mine. About the water everyone thought had ruined it. About the warmth no one knew was there. But the truth stayed simple. She didn't save the mountain. She listened to it. And the mountain saved them back. Some stories end with revenge. This one ends differently. Not with fire, not with victory, but with warmth, quiet, steady, unmoving. Held deep in stone, where winter could never reach.